and gentlemen, let's put our hands together to welcome the big minister with the big success rate as far as delivering elections in his party is concerned, Mr. Ashwini Vaishnaw. Thank you very much for joining us right here on the India Economic Conclave 10th edition. And these 10 years have coincidentally coincided with the term of the Modi government since 2014. I want to ask you, this time the theme of our conclave is fast track to the top 3. How are we going to do it? You are the man with the Midas touch who has to convert IT, AI, as well as look at semiconductors, electronics, manufacturing, everything. How are you going to do this? What's the roadmap?
Thank you, Navika, and thank you for having me here as a part of the conclave. I would like to say that the foundation, the guardrails, and the thought process for taking India to the top 3 economies, that is very well set. It's a very well thought through approach which our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, has followed. It's basically built on 4 major pillars. First pillar is massive public investment in social, physical and digital infrastructure. Second pillar is huge focus on manufacturing and innovation. And the third pillar is, since our society is very diverse and especially on the economic scales, there is huge diversity. So the third pillar is basically large number of programs which are creating a very inclusive growth. It's basically taking all the people who were left behind in the past 50, 60 years, bringing them into the mainstream. So that's the third pillar. And the fourth pillar is simplification. And because of this very clear thought process, and because of the execution which has happened in the last 10 years, we are well set to become one of the top 3 economies in the coming years.
Is there a timeline that your government has put on attaining that position?
If we look at the current size of our economy, we are, last year, 31st March, we were 297 lakh crore rupees economy, and our nominal growth is around 10 to 11%. So we should be around 330 lakh crore, and looking at the rupee to dollar conversion, we should be just around 4 trillion now. Simultaneously, the Japanese and German economies, which are the ones which we have to overtake to become the third top economy, they are also passing through a very tough phase at this point of time. So my estimate would be, we should be the third largest economy somewhere in 27 or maybe 28, in that time frame.
Well, that's a tremendous target that you've set yourselves. A lot has been said about India becoming, the alternative to China and becoming the global hub for companies across the world. How do you look at that progress which you've undertaken over the last several years? How do you see that in terms of the progress it has made, especially the semiconductor story in India?
Absolutely right. One fundamental thing which differentiates our approach vis-a-vis many other countries' approach is that we believe in IPR, we believe in developing trust, we believe in long-term relationships. And some of the strengths which India has, the huge talent pool, a very clear policy framework, and political stability, all these factors have really helped our economy, helped our country being positioned as a trusted partner for the people who would like to relocate their manufacturing, relocate their services, and also relocate She said she comes from a village which is like almost 150 kilometers away from Patna. So she said when she goes back home to Bihar, the entire village, basically today the village respects her more than the village pramok when she goes and tells that she manufactures mobile phones. So it's an amazing journey. It's such a big social transformation. Same is the case with semiconductor. Our country tried getting semiconductor industry into India way back in 1962. Lots of efforts were made. I don't say that the efforts were in any case lacking. Efforts must have been proper, but fortunately, it's only during Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji's period that we got success. Our policy was announced on the 1st Jan of 2022, and here we are in December of 2024, and we have already 5 units where the construction work is going on, and somewhere in the middle of 25 we should see the first made in India chip shipping out.
Well, first made in India chip coming soon to our country, that clearly is a great achievement. You spoke about political stability. Yes, political stability from the government is there. But what do you do about the parliament where we see more theatre, more adjournments, more what's called ho-halla than we actually see debate on policy issues?
We definitely want to run the parliament well. From the NDA side, we are very clear that parliament is a place, as per our constitution, that is a place where we should have very healthy debates, good, strong, fact-based debates, and the opposition should come up with constructive ideas, constructive criticism. It's very unfortunate that the opposition is shying away from its responsibility by taking the route of disruptions. That's very unfortunate.
Let me ask you, there's a huge charge that has been put by your party, your government, on the opposition leader, Rahul Gandhi, and you've called him virtually somebody who's working against the interest of India. The issue of George Soros and the association of the Congress party with it has been brought up. Considering you are the INB minister and the IT minister, are there any specific links that you can talk about? And is that going to be investigated?
See, we have seen a very clear pattern. Just before a parliament session is to begin, something comes up. We had Pegasus coming exactly 3 or 4 days before the parliament session came in. We had multiple number of incidents happening which basically fall into a pattern, and whatever recent reports which have come in the one of the international journals or group, they clearly show that there is a linkage between some groups which are basically making their mission to destabilize India, and they don't like to see the growth that we are having. And if you link that, if you look that in the perspective of how many of our opposition party senior persons are senior leaders, they are in a sense trying to denigrate our country, in a sense trying to in all their international speeches and international interactions, they want to show down, they want to keep they obviously don't look at the successes of the country. And when a country succeeds, it is a success of it's success of 1.4 billion people. It is not just one party's success, it's a success of every Indian citizen. I think we should take pride in that. Why try to kind of criticize on the foreign soil? So that pattern is very clear, Navika ji, and that pattern is something which is very disturbing. I don't think any responsible political party should get into that trap.
If you're referring to the media part report on this, they did make a mention of the hidden links between investigative journalism and the US government and the OCCRP having links with Soros. But the media outlet has also denied the usage of their report by your party to attack the opposition. So the report that you're depending on is actually questioning the conclusions that you are drawing. How do you respond to that?
It's part of the whole system. I'm sure they would have, see, once they publish something, after that, the world is free to look at what they have published and draw the conclusions from the data that they themselves have brought out. Now, they saying that they cannot use, somebody cannot use what they have published. That's like, is that part of journalism? If Times Now today gives out a statement or publishes a news item and Congress tomorrow uses it to attack us, right? Then can Times Now say that, no, we did not allow Congress to? It's not. It's once it is published, it's available for the world.
So will an investigation follow about the links?
The authorities and legal enforcement agencies, they'll do what they are supposed to do as per the laws of the land.
Let me also ask you, there seems to be a confrontation between the Treasury benches and the opposition. The opposition says you don't allow the House to run. You say they don't allow the House to run. There is one-upmanship. If they want to debate a certain issue, you come up with another issue. Now we have a situation where there's a no-confidence motion against the chairman of Rajya Sabha. There is a privilege motion against the Parliamentary Affairs Minister. Mr. Vaishnaw, the question I want to ask you is, where is this going to take us? Where is it going to end? And is there any hope of the Treasury benches and the opposition benches coming to a consensus to take the country forward?
Listen, we are very clearly focused on development of the country, improving the living standards of our people, making sure that the opportunities for middle class are better, making sure that the poorer sections in the society, they get the basic needs. There is an inclusive growth. And for that, our mission cannot be stopped by the disruptions in the parliament. We will remain focused. We are very open-minded also. They wanted a debate on constitution. We said, of course, there should be a debate on constitution. Congress party is the party which hijacked the constitution and 1975. We should not forget that. They are the ones who have made so many amendments in the constitution. Congress party is the party for which the Supreme Court had to come out and say that there is a basic structure of the constitution which cannot be overridden by the party. So, who are the ones who are pointing fingers? Congress party, when it is pointing that one finger, they should look at the four fingers which are getting pointed at themselves. So the question is, we want constructive debate, we want the House to run, we want the country to focus on the future that we all deserve, the dream that all of us took when we got into whichever field of life that we are in, making a prosperous country, making sure that everybody has opportunities. That's the dream that we are all working towards. Why shouldn't Congress be a part of that dream?
While many people today are speculating that the cabinet has passed the decision on one nation, one election, is that to set the cat amongst the pigeons at a time when the opposition is protesting, one could say, far too much in Parliament?
Listen, we have made a very clear announcement in the manifesto of Bharatiya Janata Party for the general elections that we believe in one nation, one election, and it's very important. Why should the country waste so much time in conducting elections when the time for building our nation is the most important priority that we have? We have such a clearly laid out path and we have such a big task in front of us that at least next 15-20 years, we should be totally focused on getting the work done. There should be one election done. Then the rest of the period, we should focus on doing the work for our country. That is the way, that is a clear, and I'm sure in the first 100 days press conference, there also we announced very clearly that we are focused on getting the right thing. And there was a very respectable committee which worked on it. A committee which was chaired by Shri Kovindji, who was the ex-president, honorable president. And views were taken from almost all the different stakeholders possible. Since 1983, 26 instances are there where either the Law Commission or a parliamentary committee or the Election Commission of India, somebody or other has basically said that there should be one nation, one election kind of program. And that was the norm in 1951-52. In 1957, almost 6 assemblies, the elections to 6 assemblies was preponed so that there can be a simultaneous election. So there is nothing wrong about it. It's a very positive thought and it's very good for the country. Why should we have a period of model code of conduct where you can't do anything, can't do the development projects? Why should we have so much of the force deployed into elections the entire year? So I think that's a very good thought.
Will the bill come this session?
Listen, when the bill comes, you'll come to know.
You're not going to fall into answering that question directly.
I give answers to all the questions directly, exactly what is required to be said.
Okay, you wear so many hats. Do you get confused? Sometimes IT, sometimes electronics, sometimes INB. So in INB, let me ask you, the big issue these days is censorship. Our country has had a long tryst with censorship, and now there have been noises inside Parliament and outside about OTT platforms and censorship there. What are your views on that?
See, I'm very clear in my views on this subject. See, the context of safe harbor, that came in 1990s. And this came at a time when internet was being developed. Internet was something very new. It was limited to universities, limited to a very few technical oriented people. I was one of them. Luckily at IIT Kanpur, we were among the first ones to have access to internet during those days in the entire country. So a concept of safe harbor was created so that who knows what's going to be put on the net, right? Now, the world has totally changed since then. The internet, which had 0.01% of the world's population was using internet, today 99% of the world is using net. You running a news channel and coming from such a well-respected news group, you have very strong editorial systems. You have checks. You check whether the reporter has given the correct information. There are double checks. There are fact checks. Then there is an editorial method that you follow. Now imagine the trust which has got developed over press and media over 200 years or maybe 200, 300 years. Now that is getting disturbed, that is getting totally destroyed when there is no editorial check. Anybody can say anything without being responsible for what they are saying. Then shouldn't the context, which was good for 1990, when that has changed, shouldn't the rules and regulations and the way we look at the safe harbor concept, shouldn't that change? That's a question which the entire world today is discussing. I've had meetings with more than 20 counterparts across the world, some of them from some of the most liberal countries and some of them from some countries which have very strong regulatory instincts. Each one of them, this spectrum, this end of the spectrum and this end of the spectrum. Each one of them thinks that times have changed, and that's why there is a need to change the context. There has to be accountability of the platform. I'm saying, please mark my words, what I'm saying is there has to be accountability of the platforms. In any case, they have their own policies where they are doing content moderation in their own ways. Why shouldn't they take more responsibility for what is being published on the platforms? That's the fundamental question. I would like it to be debated. I would like all the people who are connected with this, the world of media and the world of technology, and also everybody who's interested in this, please come out, share your views, give your opinions, let the society come to a consensus, and then we can move forward to take that forward.
Artificial intelligence. What are the strides that have been made? Open AI and the challenges that it throws up. Also, we've seen cases, that have come up in courts on open AI, on Wikipedia, the information, the also acknowledgement of the content, especially because we come from a news group. Any platform and their search engines can choose our content. How do the payment platforms work? What's the kind of policy that you're looking at in this direction?
This is again a major concern. Out of the 4 challenges that we see today, this is one of the major challenges. The challenge is, if the content has been created with so much care, so much effort, so many resources having been put to create that content, and AI digests it without compensating the people who have created the content. It's a big challenge. It's again this is an issue which is being debated across the world, and a solution has to come out for it. There has to be a fair share between the parties, the people who are creating the content and the people who are digesting it and presenting it in a different way. So I believe that there has to be a fair share between the two.
So is there a policy discussion in your ministry on how to regulate this? And
yes.
How soon will we see this policy?
Yes, we are debating, we are discussing with almost all the stakeholders, and recently I had a couple of meetings, 2 very serious meetings with the media groups also, and I'll request you to come forward and take your part of the responsibility and educate the people, make them understand the entire. This is a complex issue which has to be understood by a much larger section of the society, and let the society debate and come up with a consensus. Because on the one hand, we have the freedom of speech. On the one hand, we have innovation requirements. On the one hand, we have the safe harbor clause. And on the other hand, we have the fair compensation to content creators, accountability of the media. So there has to be a consensus around it. And societies go forward only, the sustainable way forward is when we create a consensus on such contentious issues.
We'll shift hats again, and now you can wear your hat as the Railways Minister. And let me ask you, in railways, on the one side, the big challenge has been safety. On the other, of course, you've really taken this sector forward with Vande Bharat, the new manner in which you've looked at trains, the way the stations are kept, but delays and also crowded stations still continue to be some of the challenges. How do you balance both these sides?
This is a very large sector. Railways is a very, very, very huge sector, and this is a sector which required significant investments way back since 1970s. Unfortunately, the governments of those years, they basically took railway as a very political ministry, and instead of focusing on investing and increasing the capacity, getting new technology, getting new types of trains, getting better tracks, better quality of signaling systems, better stations, they kept on focusing on very populist measures of announcing trains, period. That was their entire focus. Get votes, announce trains, get votes by announcing trains. That was the only thing which, for a very large period, the governments were doing and political parties were doing. Things changed in 2014 when Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, because he has a very good understanding of railways, he also sees the logic of the entire economic framework in which railway plays a very important part, because we are a country which has very meager petroleum reserves. So it's very important that we do a lot of transportation using electricity. And using electricity means either you have electric vehicles or you have electrical trains. So that's why our Prime Minister took up the entire mission of electrifying the entire network. We put huge investments in getting new tracks built. So if you look at some of the figures, you'll be amazed. In the 60 years before 2014, the electrification which happened was 20,000 kilometers. In 10 years after 2014, it's 44,000 kilometers. The whole German network is 35,000 kilometers. In 10 years of Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji's first and second term, we constructed 31,000 kilometers of new tracks. Last year, we constructed 5,300 kilometers of new tracks. The whole network of Switzerland is 5,000 kilometers. So adding a network like Switzerland in 1 year, and same progress was there in the year before that. So that's the pace at which work is happening. Imagine Kavach kind of technology, automatic train protection technology, ATP it's called, that was introduced globally in all the major railways way back in 1990s and early 2000s. And it's a matter of pride for us. At least our government took interest in it. But the governments before that totally neglected all that safety. One of the most important safety technologies. We developed, our Prime Minister put a big focus on it. He said that we should have our own technology. And today we have one of the finest technologies in place. Recently when the Kavach 4.0 was being tested, I visited Kota to Savai Madhopur. The driver, the loco pilot, when he saw that a red light, which is 5 kilometers away, cannot be seen if you look out of the window, is visible on the dashboard. He was so confident and so happy with it, because then he doesn't have to depend upon the fog outside or the distance outside. And when Kavach applied the brake to the train, without the driver applying the brake, he was really amazed. You should have looked at the expression on his face. And he actually said कि ये कवच ट्रेन का कवच तो है ठीक है, लेकिन मेरे परिवार का भी कवच है. So that's the focus that we are putting on safety. I would also like to share with you, during some of the most spoken about railway ministers, in their period, I won't take names, it's not proper, during their period...
It's proper. These days, nobody pulls any punches.
Let me follow my principles. So, during those periods, 365 days, 445 accidents. And they are the ones who are trying to create a narrative today. We could reduce those numbers to less than 100, which is 85% or 80% reduction since the period of the UPA government. And it's not that we are satisfied at this pace. We want to work even more, and we go into root cause of each and every incident, make structural changes, make procedural changes, make technology changes, so that our trains become much more safer than what they were earlier. So that's our focus, and that focus continues.
Let's shift hats again. And in the end, I want to ask you, in the middle of all of these ministries and governance and government and visionary tasks that you do, you also get states to handle and state elections to handle. You delivered a fantastic performance in Madhya Pradesh last, and then now in Maharashtra. So I want to talk to you about the recent Maharashtra elections. Did you imagine you would get 132 out of the 149 seats that you contested?
Listen, we were very clearly focused, and our party is very, it works very methodically. We were very focused on the grassroots work. We have a very large number of very motivated and inspired Karyakartas. I'm one of the Karyakartas. And this team of Karyakartas, inspired by the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, inspired by the state leadership, it worked very hard. And this results that we see, these are the results of good governance of the last 10 years, good hope towards future, and the hard work of our karyakartas and the excellent leadership of our party.
But just 4 months before that, the performance in Maharashtra in the Lok Sabha elections was not really up to the mark, up to the expectations of the party itself. How did you manage this turnaround? Is it a study that should now be looked at by all political parties and all schools of political science?
You don't expect me to talk about the details in a media event, right?
क्यों सब EVM program कर दिए थे? Because यही opposition कहती है कि कोई भी बटन दबाओ बीजेपी को वोट जाता है.
Opposition can say what they are saying, and it's that story of sour grapes. Absolutely. See, the general elections, one of the major factors was the fake narrative that the opposition created. The fake narrative of constitution is something that they decided and they took it to a different level. But we reached out to each and every community in the state. We explained our viewpoint. We showed what the work has been done in the last 10 years. We clearly presented the path towards better livelihoods for them. We made sure that we reach out to each and every person, and people understood our viewpoint. People believed in our delivery behind, and they have the trust that it's only BJP which can really change the lives in a very sustainable manner. That's the work done. So I don't want to speak more than that. That's fundamentally the work which we have done.
So the next election, how do you celebrate in your party? If you succeed in delivering one state to the party, do you get homework for the next state?
That's why we need one nation, one election, right?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Ashwini.